Well, here comes trouble as this winter storm is going to get its act together as we make our way past the Christmas holiday with storms on the southern end as well as snowfall and ice concerns on the northern end. I've got details on the model rundown, the latest timing, stormy and snowy sides, as well as the cool down and weather shift behind the system.
One Nation Weather.
Alright, welcome into the video. Let's go ahead and get into this brief sequence of strong storms that is diminishing here over parts of western Texas. We at least saw some brief severe weather coverage this evening through our Saturday evening here across parts of western Texas with a slight risk in some zones there. That's as this low pressure system brings some storms and some rainfall on the eastern side with that southerly flow, whereas we've got snowfall wrapping back around into parts of the Rockies through the evening here on your Saturday. Now, as we make our way towards around midnight tonight and into our Christmas Eve early morning, you can see parts of Oklahoma City all the way on down through Dallas getting in on some storm coverage. Also some showers over parts of the northern plains, and then we've got snowfall wrapping back around quite heavy at times into parts of Wyoming as well as Colorado there, again enhanced by elevation. Now, as we make our way towards the 8 and 9 a.m. central time frame here on your Sunday morning, aka your Christmas Eve, that southerly flow just continues to really pump on up into parts of the plains. We've also got that snow stripe here across parts of the panhandle of Nebraska, central parts of South Dakota, and eastern North Dakota here as it's kind of slanted diagonally like that. You can see that snow continues into the afternoon as it progresses eastward, kind of along a cooler line there. And then we've also got some showers and storms on the southern end in the Arklatex region, some of which could produce some flooding, maybe some isolated severe weather as well. By the time we make our way overnight Christmas Eve and into our Christmas morning, it's looking like we'll have a little bit of light to moderate snowfall continuing over parts of the eastern Dakotas, parts of eastern Nebraska, as well as northeastern Kansas. That happens while there's that southerly flow on the southeast side of the system. Now let's kind of dive more into detail with that snowfall timing. Here's the NAM model zoomed in view. Again, Christmas Eve in the morning, we've got this stripe of snowfall from parts of Nebraska stretching all the way on up through parts of northern North Dakota. So this is really going to be a little dynamic system here. This is just piece number one of this cutoff low pressure area over the central United States. Notice how that snowfall really continues building up as we make our way towards the noon time frame on our Christmas Eve. Southerly flow creating a little bit of an ice line there into parts of the eastern Dakotas as well as northwestern Minnesota. We'll have to see if that shapes up into any ice accretion. Overall, not much out of that. I'll show you what could bring you more ice later on in just a minute. As we make our way towards around, say, 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the afternoon on your Christmas Eve, snowfall just really continues impacting parts of the eastern Dakotas, but this region I just circled is really where some of the best accumulation is going to occur. By the way, if you enjoy my content, please hit that subscribe button for accurate, easy to understand, and passionate forecasting. Now back to some of the snowfall through Christmas morning. So here's what you're looking at across parts of the Rockies as well as parts of western Nebraska, parts of the Dakotas, as well as far northwestern Minnesota. That's where you have the best chance of picking up at least a couple inches. Some spots, especially in the Rockies, locally up to around half of a foot to 8 inches of snowfall. Not really expecting that kind of snowfall over the plains. But here's my latest White Christmas forecast and my official White Christmas forecast. Best bet is with elevation over parts of the Mountain West. Possible to get a White Christmas over parts of the western Dakotas, but overall that little snow stripe we get is going to make it likely in that blue zone. Possible in surrounding areas, possible off Lake Erie, otherwise unlikely across the country. But by the way, this snowfall is triggering some winter weather advisories over parts of the plains already. Now let's get into the rest of the snowfall timing with that NAM model. You can see some snowfall in eastern Nebraska as well as central Kansas, but overall kind of dying down into our Christmas morning. So really not any big chances of a White Christmas if you don't get in that snow stripe. It is still a possibility though as that light snow continues. We'll see how heavy it can actually be here over parts of eastern Nebraska as well as central and eastern Kansas. Notice how we have that ice line kind of setting on up along this though into parts of central Nebraska and western Iowa. That's as that warmer air pushes on in, but we'll break kind of some of the ice potential down in even more detail here in a second. But notice where that snow stripe really is heavy here. It's over parts of Grand Island, Nebraska, Omaha, on up through Sioux City there in Iowa, and then Sioux Falls in South Dakota, these areas, as well as southwestern Minnesota getting in on some very heavy snowfall by the time we make our way, especially towards the late Christmas time frame. So really shifting from a lighter snow to a heavier snow, especially in that area I just circled by the end of Christmas Day. Also some ice along that dividing line, and that could be a big concern as we've got some, if it's freezing at the surface, which it's looking like it will be, this could create several miles of ice here into parts of Minnesota. This isn't just going to be any sort of thin dividing line. We'll have heavy snowfall in eastern South Dakota and eastern Nebraska continuing, while that warm air feeds this ice over parts of especially what looks like parts of central and northern Minnesota, impacting places like Fergus Falls, Brainerd, on up through parts of northeastern Minnesota and the Arrowhead as well. And that rainfall continues slamming parts of Minneapolis all the way on over into the Great Lakes region. Will be heavy rain there. We've also got some light snow trying to wrap back around in parts of Kansas, southwestern Iowa, as well as Missouri. But of course, the big snow show is going to continue over parts of the eastern Dakotas, with that ice line continuing to kind of shift further north and west as this low continues to move to the north. So that will bring some warmer air into areas that saw original freezing rain, hopefully kind of alleviating those issues a little faster. But by the time we're making our way into this is our Tuesday afternoon, snowfall begins to wind down, but starts to push a little bit further south over parts of Nebraska and a little bit heavier briefly over parts of Iowa and Missouri. So we'll see if that can bring out some decent totals. But here's your Euro model snowfall. Look at how heavy that snow is with that northwest flow flowing in behind that low pressure system. Spots picking up anywhere from a foot to a foot and a half of snow over that region I just circled right there, especially in those deeper purple shades. That's where you would expect the most snow. But look at how this lines up with the GFS. The GFS has the snowfall a little bit more confined and in a tight region over parts of southern South Dakota and northern and eastern Nebraska. But right now it looks like the bullseye is going to be over parts of eastern South Dakota as well as the eastern parts of the state of Nebraska right now. But also notice a thin stripe of snowfall moves into parts of northern Missouri, southwestern Iowa, along that line I just drew there. And then we get the lake effect enhancement as these snowier showers push in behind the system later this week and into parts of Appalachia, because the system is going to take a while to move on through. Here's that ice forecast I promised for you here. Again, that initial snow stripe we get as we make our way prior to Christmas, bringing a quick maybe 0.05 to a tenth of an inch of ice accretion. Probably not enough to cause really any issues except maybe in eastern North Dakota. But this is the big show making its way Monday night and into our Tuesday, so Christmas night and into Tuesday. Totals anywhere from a quarter to a half an inch with the European model over that area I just circled. That is enough to cause, power outages. We could have trees falling, major problems, especially on roadways, considering this is right after Christmas time that some of this ice will be lingering around. The GFS is going to show this the heaviest of this ice a little bit further northeast in this area that I'm circling here, in comparison to the European model. So that's something to keep a watch on. But now that we're done with the ice, let's go ahead and shift on over to what's going on with the rainfall and flooding side of the system. All right, here we go. You can see this is our flood risk for parts of our Christmas Eve time frame here. This is going to include eastern Kansas, eastern parts of Oklahoma, and then western parts of Missouri and northwestern Arkansas. Really going to get on some of these showers and storms pushing from west to east. Now, overall, the severe potential that we had in West Texas today, as I'm filming this on your late Saturday, that's not going to be in existence anymore. But nonetheless, your Sunday Christmas Eve time frame, we're still going to be looking at the chance for maybe a few severe showers and storms, but overall, just some heavy flooding rainfall, especially into the afternoon time frame over parts of Mobile, Alabama, in that small yellow zone that includes New Orleans as well, and then over that area that I mentioned earlier, that yellow zone over parts of the South Central Plains. Notice how both areas show some yellows on the models by the 4 p.m. time frame in the afternoon, and then this rainfall kind of continues progressing on off towards the north and east as the day goes on. And then as we make our way towards around, say, midnight, Christmas Eve night going into our Thursday, Santa's on his way. We've got rainfall pushing and disrupting the route over parts of Kansas City, Missouri, stretching all the way on down to the Gulf Coast. We'll see how those scattered showers affect Santa and his reindeer. Maybe not the best flight conditions, that's for sure. Definitely some turbulence right in the atmosphere. Now, anyway, we've got this rainfall continuing to push its way on off towards the north and east, and then this line of rain pushing all the way through the Carolinas into the Ohio Valley as we make our way kind of Christmas and into our Tuesday. It will push through the Great Lakes as well, but we kind of get a secondary area of rain with a weaker low pressure zone that's going to try and form over the Carolinas. That piece of energy is going to make its way to the northeast as we make our way Wednesday here and even towards our Thursday, and that's what's also going to help to bring the lake enhancement snowfall behind this system. Now, your forecast rainfall, this is through Thursday, December 28th with the Weather Prediction Center. You can see totals anywhere from an inch to 3 inches over parts of the plains. Now, remember, some of this is falling as snow into parts of the Dakotas and Minnesota, or ice, unfortunately. Totals in the southeast ranging from around a half an inch to an inch and a half. But overall consensus here is that everybody picks up at least a half an inch, which is indicated by the blue colors, with locally higher amounts in the Carolinas as well as the plains. So keep that in mind. One last thing I wanted to show, with the system at least, is the forecast wind gusts. As we make our way Christmas morning, we'll have some blowing snowfall here over parts of the plains, and parts of Nebraska, especially there where we have some of the accumulation beginning to add on up. But by the end of the day, Monday, as this low pressure system tightens up, the heaviest snowfall during this time as well. Some gusts 40 plus miles per hour over parts of Nebraska. Could we see some isolated blizzard conditions there into parts of northern Nebraska, southern South Dakota, in addition to that foot of snowfall that is falling? Certainly could, so that could create for some hazardous travel if you're trying to head home anytime during the Christmas and into Tuesday time frame. So you might want to hold off, stay with family a little longer, or wherever you are a little longer. And then we kind of see these wind gusts push on off towards the east beyond that point. And as we make our way towards the end of this week. Now, one last thing I wanted to touch on, it's the pattern flip behind this. I touched on it in the last video, but your forecast temp anomaly on Christmas Day, well above average, meaning 40s and 50s in the Great Lakes on Christmas Day, some cooler than average air pushing out of the Rockies. But this is the graphic I really want to show you by the end of the week. So we go from Monday, December 25th being Christmas, pretty much the entire country warmer than average, to a good chunk of the southern and eastern part of the country a little bit below average by the time we go to the Friday, December 29th time frame. That a little bit below average temperature, that margin is expected to last and continue all the way into parts of early January, which is why it's important to monitor the chance for increasing snowfall potential further south and east by that time. But for now, please hit subscribe for accurate, easy to understand, passionate forecasting. I'll have it for you there if anything heads our way that time. But for now, here are the credits. Everyone have a great day.
One Nation weather.